On the wedding day, Carlton's ex-girlfriend stormed into the ceremony in a fit of hysteria. Carlton's expression shifted drastically. He shoved me aside and slapped me. "I already agreed to marry you, what did you do to her?" I slapped him back without hesitation and tore off my wedding dress in front of everyone. "Carlton, do you really think every woman in the world wants to marry you?" The lively commotion of the wedding turned into hushed murmurs. Countless cameras zoomed in, eager to capture the unfolding drama. Carlton, ignoring his embarrassed bride, wrapped his ex-girlfriend in his arms and stared at me with sheer disdain. Our marriage was never about love, it was a business alliance. From the very first time I visited his family, I could feel his dislike toward me. Under the scrutinizing gazes of both families, I played the part of the bashful fiancé, lowering my head to leave a good impression. But Carlton, sitting across from me, merely glanced up coldly and, under his parents' pressure, greeted me half-heartedly. "Hello." Internally, I glared at him. Who are you trying to impress with that aloof, emotionless, Mr. Cool act? Outwardly, I kept my sweet smile and extended a hand. "Edith." He barely glanced at my outstretched hand before standing up. "I have work to do at the company. I'll be going now." With that, he walked out with long strides. Is there really something so urgent at work that it can't wait? "Carlton, stop right there," his mother called after him. But his figure disappeared at the door. Carlton's parents awkwardly explained with smiles, his company is preparing for a big project launch. He'll definitely come back to formally apologize once things settle down. After that brief meeting, our marriage was finalized by both families. When I woke up the next day, I had already become Carlton's fiancée. Our union caused a stir in the business world. It was a strategic alliance between two powerful families, designed to expand both empires. Carlton came to see me again with a sour expression, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit. Even the bouquet in his hands seemed to droop under his stormy demeanor. I accepted the flowers with a smile, while Carlton refused to spare me even a glance. His parents, with knowing smiles, left us alone to get acquainted. Finally free from the act, I dropped the pretense, tossing the bouquet into a nearby trash can under Carlton's puzzled gaze. "Why the act? It's not like you actually wanted to give me those flowers." Carlton leaned against the wall, his voice cold. "You're right. I don't like you." His bluntness was as frigid as his tone. I crossed my arms and sized him up. Carlton had that refined, fox-like appearance, cold and sharp, with a small mole near his ear. He was handsome, I had to admit. Tilting my head slightly, I met his eyes. "Did you think I liked you?" Caught off guard, Carlton hesitated before retorting, "Then why did you agree to this marriage?" As if I had a choice. I chuckled. "I was about to ask you the same thing. Don't you already have someone you like? Aren't you afraid of breaking her heart?" Carlton's girlfriend, Penny, came from a modest background. She got into a prestigious private school through her own efforts and secured a scholarship with her excellent grades. With her gentle looks, she had been the campus belle back in the day. Rumor had it that Carlton had spent a long time pursuing her. Carlton's expression grew wary. "Did you go looking for her?" I quickly reassured him, "Relax. As your fiancé, it's only fair that I pay her a visit, isn't it?" Carlton stepped closer, his gaze sharp. "What did you do to her?" He loomed over me like a predator, ready to pounce, radiating an icy menace. I backed away hurriedly. "Take it easy, Carlton. I didn't do anything to her. If anything, he should thank me." When I visited Penny at her school, I happened upon a group of girls surrounding her. Their mocking tones and sharp glares made it clear they weren't friendly. "So, Carlton and Edith are getting married? They're such a perfect match. Right? That's what you call a relationship between equals. Someone else? She's got nothing to do with it." Penny remained silent, clutching her bag so tightly her knuckles turned white. From this scene, I could already imagine how she was usually treated at school. Bullying was everywhere, especially in places like this. I didn't intervene directly, but got someone to chase those girls off. Later, I reminded Carlton, "Instead of interrogating me, maybe you should deal with what others are saying." Penny probably told him about the incident. The next time Carlton saw me, his hostility had noticeably lessened. So, I pulled him aside and suggested, "You really like Penny, don't you? Why don't you talk to your parents and cancel the engagement? Carlton gave me a complicated look. Wouldn't it be more effective if you were the one to bring it up? I shrugged helplessly. I was raised to put my family's interests above my own. I'm just a tool to them. In other words, my parents would never agree to break off the engagement. Carlton lit a cigarette and exhaled a cloud of smoke. If I cancel the engagement, my parents will go after her. They probably will, even if the engagement stays intact. Most likely, they'd approach her with a check, trying to persuade her to leave Carlton, or worse, threaten her outright. Canceling the engagement didn't seem like a realistic option. So I offered another idea. Why don't you two elope? Carlton frowned deeply. I coaxed, are you afraid that if you elope, Penny will break up with you because she's only after your money? Predictably, Carlton bristled with anger. That's nonsense. Penny isn't materialistic like other women. She's different. He practically shouted the words I'd been expecting. I raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? Carlton closed his eyes slowly and said nothing. With a sigh, I realized it was up to me to help this hopeless romantic. I secretly arranged a meeting with Penny, playing the role of the villainess to perfection. Slamming a check for $2 million in front of her, I sneered, Carlton and I are getting married soon. If you're smart, you'll back off. Penny sobbed softly, tears streaming down her face. I really love Carlton, she whispered. $2 million isn't enough? I upped the offer. $2.5 million. Stay away from him. Penny cried harder, her delicate face drenched in tears. Looking up at me with red-rimmed eyes, she asked hoarsely, Miss Edith, do you truly love Carlton? To stay in character, I had woken up 2 hours early to perfect my smoky eye makeup. Tilting my head, I lied without hesitation. To my very core. Before I could finish enjoying the performance, a tall figure burst into the room and pulled Penny up. Carlton glared at me furiously. Edith. So this is why you were so eager to help me be with Penny, it was all a scheme to drive her away. You're no different from my mother. My mind raced. Wasn't he supposed to be in a meeting today? Why is he here? Seeing Penny's tear-streaked face, I instantly understood. That woman set me up. I asked calmly, how much did you hear? But Carlton wasn't listening. You and my mother are the same. She uses checks, and so do you. I wanted to explain, but my exaggerated makeup made me look anything but sincere. Carlton stormed out with Penny after shouting, I could never love a woman like you. Rolling my eyes, I thought, how self-absorbed do you have to be to think I'd ever fall for you? Marshall, my bodyguard, emerged silently from behind. He meticulously wiped the wine Carlton had spilled on me without saying a word. As the wedding descended into chaos, Marshall draped his jacket over me after I'd ripped off my dress. Carlton's parents rushed over, yelling, You've already taken $3 million from us, and you're still clinging on. Carlton held Penny tightly. Mom. Stop it. The noise around me grew louder and more chaotic until it felt muffled, distant. Marshall gently covered my ears. Miss, don't listen to them. The wedding ended in chaos. Yet, even though Penny caused a scene, the wedding had already taken place. I became Carlton's wife, at least in name. This only deepened Carlton's hatred for me. At dawn, he would head to work, returning late at night. Our schedules were perfectly misaligned, ensuring we rarely crossed paths. He'd rather squeeze onto the sofa than sleep in bed. I kindly suggested, why don't you sleep in the bed? Don't worry, nothing will happen between us. After ignoring me for a while, Carlton shot me a fierce glare. Don't even think about it. The look in his eyes was filled with disgust. I almost spat out a mouthful of blood, but I held back my anger and said, Why don't we talk? Carlton adjusted his tie in the mirror. No time. I have to work overtime. Who comes home to change into a fresh suit and spray cologne just for overtime? I teased, heading to see your little girlfriend? Even after we got married, Carlton kept in close contact with Penny, and their relationship seemed stronger than ever. All thanks to me, the so-called wicked wife. Carlton raised his gaze. What are you up to this time? I quickly raised my hands in surrender. Don't always think the worst of me. I fully support your love story with her. He sneered coldly. Don't you dare try anything against her. I curled my lips into a smirk and took a good look at his formal attire. Dressed so sharp and serious at night, what girlfriend would like that? Carlton didn't reply, but in the mirror, I noticed his brow relaxed ever so slightly. I chuckled lightly. How about I help you spruce up your look? He didn't move, seemingly considering it. But it won't be free. How about we strike a deal? You can bring your girlfriend home as long as you avoid both sets of parents' watchful eyes. I won't care. But the condition is that once you're home, drop the scowl and actually talk. Think about it. Carlton turned back with a dark expression. Edith, what scheming plan are you cooking up now? Hoping to snitch to my parents when I bring her here? I've told you before, no matter what you do, I'll never like you. Stop wasting your time. So naive, it's no wonder Penny has him wrapped around her finger. I raised my hands again in defeat. All right, suit yourself. But since you won't bring your girlfriend over, does that mean I can bring other men home? You wouldn't tattle on me, would you? I blinked innocently at him. Carlton's face turned ashen, and he gritted his teeth. Do whatever you want. The door slammed shut with force. Exactly what I wanted. I sprawled out on the sofa and dialed Marshall's number. Get me some handsome young guys. They've gotta be young. Marshall paused for a few seconds before surprisingly objecting. Miss, you're married. I shouted. He's allowed to date his mistress, but I can't find myself some men? Marshall stayed silent. I hung up. Forget it, time to take matters into my own hands. I went to my usual bar. The owner greeted me as soon as he saw me. Haven't seen you in a while. I laughed and diverted the topic. Well, I got married. He chuckled knowingly and stepped aside. Got it. Take your time. I had just settled on the sofa when a striking figure in red caught my eye. To my surprise, I spotted Penny here. She wore a gauzy dress reminiscent of the ones Carlton's previous love interest favored, her black curls cascading to her waist. Noticing me, she fearlessly walked over and sat down. She spoke first. What's this? Surprised to see me here? I nodded. Very much so. Guess Carlton got stood up tonight. Penny laughed. Men, they can't always be at your beck and call. I was taken aback by her comment. So, you don't love Carlton? She raised an eyebrow. Are you here to defend your husband or tattle on me to him? I shrugged helplessly. Even if I told him, he wouldn't believe me. Like with the check last time. Penny burst into laughter and curiously asked, how was my acting last time? The question sounded ordinary enough, but coming from a mistress, it felt oddly surreal. Seeing her sincere gaze, I replied earnestly. You could honestly pursue a career in acting. Penny blushed and nodded. Thank you for the compliment. I pressed on, so, why are you with Carlton? For money, she answered without hesitation. Getting checks from you too doesn't compare to what I get by sticking with him. She said it as if it were the most normal thing in the world, without a hint of embarrassment. I didn't know how to respond. Penny chuckled again. Edith, someone like you, born into privilege, wouldn't understand. For people like us, money gets us ahead faster than love. I immediately interjected. For people like us, there's no love either, only interests. Take Carlton and me, for instance. Women are naturally drawn to gossip. Once we started talking about Carlton, the floodgates opened. Penny vented about all his flaws, but admitted she had to act like a sweet, innocent flower for the money. Meanwhile, I ranted about his ridiculous arrogance and peculiar habits since we first met. By the end, we found ourselves on the same page. Who says rivals can't be friends? Why ruin ourselves over a man? This became the motto of our newfound friendship. Before parting, I made a request. Next time you act, at least spare me some dignity. Like last time when Carlton splashed wine on me over the check, or slapped me at the wedding. Penny covered her mouth shyly. I'll try my best. Our glasses clinked, and we downed our drinks. But the moment I finished mine, I started feeling dizzy. Suddenly, a figure loomed before me. Penny's cool fingers brushed along my jawline as she spoke softly. Actually, I didn't approach Carlton just for the money. She leaned closer, her lips grazing my ear. There's another reason. When I woke up, I felt a little dizzy. Marshall was sitting by the side with his eyes lightly closed. Hearing the sound of my movement, he hurriedly helped me sit up against the headboard. I held my head, feeling the sharp throbbing at my temples. It hurt terribly. Miss, yesterday, it was Penny who called. You were drunk, Marshall explained, lowering his gaze as though he didn't dare meet my eyes. I responded casually. Well then, go make me some hangover soup. Marshall blinked. But, miss, about the wine you drank yesterday, I already had it tested, and inside. Shoo, I gently pressed my index finger against his lips, smiling as I spoke. Remember, I was just drunk. Marshall froze. But, miss. I gave him a glance, and he obediently shut his mouth. I got out of bed and stood in front of the large mirror in the bedroom. A daily ritual of mine was to stand before the mirror for at least half an hour every morning to admire my beauty. While appreciating my reflection, I often cursed in my head. How can I be this naturally gorgeous, even without makeup? What man could ever be worthy of me? But today, there wasn't enough time, I had guests. Bring me the reddest dress from the wardrobe, I instructed. Sitting down in front of the mirror, I dressed up, applied bold red lipstick, and opened the door. As expected, in the living room sat Carlton, his face dark as a storm. He held a frail woman in a white chiffon dress in his arms. Her face bore traces of tears. I smirked. We made quite the striking contrast, red and white, a picture of beauty. Seeing me emerge, Carlton stood up, pulling Penny with him. Edith, why did you contact Penny behind my back yesterday and take her to a place like a bar? What exactly are you trying to do? He held on to Penny like a mother hen guarding her chick. Marshall, standing behind me, looked ready to intervene, but I held him back. I spoke slowly. I just wanted to treat the future lady of this house to a drink. Carlton tightened his grip on Penny and glared at me. What nonsense are you up to again? I pulled out an agreement and tossed it onto the table in front of him. Since we don't love each other, and you already have someone you like, let's keep this marriage on the surface, but leave each other alone privately. You can bring your lover into the house, and I can bring mine. Everyone gets what they want. I think it's a great deal. Carlton stared at me with a gloomy expression, remaining silent. But the petite Penny spoke up in a trembling voice, Oh, no, I've never lived in a house this big. I don't want to interfere with your relationship. Her eyes filled with tears, evoking pity. Sure enough, Carlton, who had been hesitating, immediately retorted, Don't say that. There's no relationship between me and her. I only love you. If she can live here, why can't you? Carlton picked up a pen and signed the agreement decisively. And just like that, Penny moved in. Of course, to protect his precious Penny from someone like me, Carlton doubled the number of guards in the house. Even if I brought a plate of fruit to Penny's room, the guards had to test it for poison. I sneered sarcastically, Carlton treats you so well. Are you sure you don't like him? Penny stuffed her mouth with fruit and spoke indistinctly, Anyone who loses their head over love is a fool. Think about it, Carlton's a rich second-generation heir. Do you think he'll stay loyal to one woman? His feelings for me are more about the thrill of chasing something he can't have. I've never heard of a real-life Cinderella story. It's better to grab what I can while I can. I couldn't help but admire her honesty, giving her a thumbs up. From then on, I often visited Penny's room. Over time, Carlton gradually lowered his guard against me. He would only glance at me with disdainful eyes, asking, "Why are you so concerned about Penny lately?" I rolled my eyes. "Why are you so concerned about me lately?" Carlton snorted coldly and said nothing. One day, when Penny wanted to go out with me, Carlton assigned 12 bodyguards to follow her. Looking at the single bodyguard, Marshall, standing behind me, I turned expressionlessly to Penny. Penny smiled coyly, "Sorry, looks like my entourage is bigger." The sight of us walking into a mall together was surreal. People cleared the area as if we were celebrities. Murmurs followed us, "Who are these powerful women? Their presence is overwhelming." Penny and I both grabbed a passerby's sleeve and demanded, "Who looks more like the lady of the house?" We seemed to have an intense competitive urge on this particular issue. Even the shop assistants trembled as they handed over clothes, muttering, "Ma'am, miss, here are your outfits." I nudged Marshall and said, "Hurry, take the clothes for Miss Penny." Marshall hesitated for a moment but obediently held Penny's clothes. Penny giggled shyly. "Edith, the people around you are so kind." I sneered. "Last time your 12 guards fought over who would carry the clothes, and they tore them to shreds before they even reached me." After shopping, we unexpectedly ran into Carlton cooking in the kitchen. Lately, perhaps because Penny had moved in, Carlton's attitude toward me had softened. He wasn't exactly warm, but he seemed less hostile. Penny naturally clung to his arm. "What are you making today?" Carlton smiled warmly. "Your favorite. Go wait for it." Then he glanced at me, his expression turning icy. Uncomfortably, he added, "You can have some too. There's extra." I shamelessly sat down. "Thanks." At the dining table, the atmosphere was heavy. After all, it was rare for a husband, a wife, and a mistress to dine together. To ease the tension, I called Marshall over to join us and placed a large piece of lean meat in his bowl. "Eat up. You've worked hard lately." Marshall had been through a lot. When Penny and I argued, he played mediator and often bore the brunt of our misplaced anger. When we snuck off to a bar, he had to distract the guards. Even when Penny sprained her ankle, it was Marshall who carried her to the hospital. This house would fall apart without him. Thinking this, I added another piece of meat to his bowl. Marshall, overwhelmed, silently ate it all. Then, I casually placed a large piece of fatty meat into Penny's bowl. "You should eat more too." Penny twitched her lips, her eyes blazing with murderous intent. Carlton immediately picked the meat out. "Penny doesn't like fatty meat." Penny's smug expression returned in an instant. Awkwardly, Marshall placed a piece of broccoli in my bowl. "Miss, you should eat too." And so, what began as a proper meal turned into a chaotic food war, with everyone determined not to back down. At some point, someone's forceful chopsticks overturned a dish, spilling steaming hot soup onto both Penny and me. Our legs reddened and swelled visibly. But Penny's injury was far worse. She burst into tears almost immediately. Carlton panicked, scooping her up in his arms. "Call the doctor, now." Marshall rushed over to carry me, but I stopped him. "Go take care of Penny. She's hurt more than me." Marshall hesitated for a second before running off toward Penny. And just like that, what should have been a proper dinner ended in complete disarray. Penny's leg was treated with medication, and she needed a few days of rest. When I walked in, she had just finished a call with Carlton. Even at work, Carlton was deeply concerned about her. I sat cross-legged beside Penny, and she cast her gaze at my leg. "Why don't you bandage that?" "Are you sure you're okay?" she asked. I didn't respond, just stared at Penny intently. Feeling uneasy under my gaze, Penny snapped, "What are you doing?" I rubbed my chin and grinned. "Penny, the more I think about it, the more it doesn't sit right with me." I suddenly remembered something. Back when we met at the bar, before I got drunk, you whispered something in my ear. Was there another motive? Penny's face turned red in an instant. "Did I really say that?" I nodded. "You did." Ah, Penny suddenly looked like she had an epiphany. Right, there was another motive. I wanted to travel. I frowned. Travel? Yeah. I've never been on a trip before. A friend of mine told me about her trip to the Netherlands, and guess what she saw? She said guys could hold hands with guys there, and women could wear wedding dresses or suits. Isn't that fascinating? I scoffed. What's so fascinating about that? Haven't you ever read a book? Penny ignored my sarcastic tone, her eyes sparkling. I just think it's really interesting. I'd love to go someday. I suddenly leaned closer to Penny, and her face flushed red again. "Edith, what's gotten into you?" she exclaimed. I furrowed my brows and thought back to everything that had happened recently. Finally, I spoke. "At this point, you're still not admitting it? Before I got drunk, you flirted with me so blatantly, even tilting my chin up. When you moved in, you went out of your way to get rid of the others. And at the bar, you looked utterly disgusted when a guy touched you. Don't tell me, you like me?" Penny stared at me for a moment, then burst out laughing, bending over as she clutched her stomach. I glared at her, picked up a pillow, and threw it at her. "What's so funny?" Penny gasped for air between laughs before finally calming down. I think you've been reading way too many romance novels. Your imagination is something else. I yelled, so you don't like me? I went through all that trouble to get you into this apartment. Penny shot back, and you think Carlton would have agreed without my acting skills? I got in here on my own merit, thank you very much. I rolled my eyes dramatically, feeling utterly defeated. Over the next few days, Penny made it abundantly clear through her actions that she had no romantic interest in me. I don't believe her. Penny, believe it or not. And so, we entered a phase of mutual pettiness. When Carlton was home, she would cling to him in front of me. When he wasn't, she'd hook her arm through Marshall's, speaking in a delicate, girlish tone. We exchanged sharp glares constantly, as if sparks were flying between us. Carlton, sensing the strange tension between us, was the first to confront me. Edith, what did you do to Penny? Why has she been so affectionate with me lately? Suppressing my irritation, I silently cursed him for his narcissism. But out loud, I said, I told you, I fully support your love story. For the first time, Carlton gave me a genuine smile, which sent shivers down my spine from disgust. Surprisingly, though, our relationship seemed to improve after that. He even offered to pick me up when it rained, a rare gesture. Grinning, I said, don't expect any gratitude. You wouldn't have this privilege if I could have reached Marshall. Carlton looked exasperated. Don't flatter yourself. It was Penny who asked me to come. I let out a long "oh" and said nothing more. When we got home, the lights were off. As we turned on the living room light, the scene before us was a mess, clothes and shoes scattered everywhere, broken items on the floor, even undergarments tossed carelessly. It was clear something intense had happened here. Carlton and I exchanged looks, our hearts sinking simultaneously. Without a word, we ran to the bedroom. But as we reached the door, Carlton suddenly stopped, frozen in place. Inside, muffled, intimate sounds could be heard. My heart raced as I slowly pushed open the door. The sight before me was shocking. Two familiar faces looked up at us from the bed, flushed and tangled in the sheets. One was Penny. The other was Marshall. Both of them froze, as stunned as we were. The shock hit like a hammer to the chest. I quickly shut the door, my heart pounding wildly, unable to process what I'd just seen. Carlton, however, stood rooted to the spot, trembling all over. After a while, rustling sounds came from the room. Penny and Marshall emerged, casually throwing on some clothes. When Carlton saw Penny, he staggered, as if all strength had left him. Penny's voice was calm and steady as she spoke. Carlton, let's break up. Carlton's hair was a mess as he stared at her in disbelief, unable to process what had just happened. After a long pause, he grabbed her shoulders, pleading desperately. Penny, tell me it's not true. Say it's not true, please. Penny's voice was calm and emotionless. It's not fake, Carlton. The truth is right in front of you. No. Carlton shook Penny by the shoulders, his movements frantic. Tell me you were forced into it. Were you? Say you were forced, and I'll act like none of this ever happened. You love me so much, how could you do this? You wouldn't. You couldn't. His desperate shouting carried a pitiful helplessness, burrowing deep into the bones. Carlton stared at Penny, almost pleading. As if all she needed to say was, it's fake, and he would let go of everything, let go of his anger, his pride, just to be with her again. This was the same Carlton who had always been so cold and arrogant in front of me. Now, he had thrown away all his dignity, groveling to keep a woman. Love has the power to bring people together. And just as easily, it can destroy someone. Penny looked at Carlton silently before pushing him away without hesitation. Caught off guard, Carlton stumbled and fell to the ground. He looked up at Penny, unmoving, his eyes full of supplication. Penny stood over him, looking down from above. I don't love you anymore. I love Marshall. He quietly carries the clothes I buy. When I sprained my ankle, he carried me to the hospital. And when I burned myself, he stood outside my door for an entire day. My heart clenched as I stared blankly at Penny. So it turns out. There's no such thing as something happening out of the blue. Everything had been premeditated. I didn't know when it started, but Penny had developed a habit of handing her purchases to Marshall without a second thought. And then she'd sheepishly say, "Thank you." When we went to bars together, she'd casually bring him up. "We've been gone so long, do you think Marshall can handle those 12 bodyguards by himself?" When she sprained her ankle, Marshall immediately carried her to the hospital. And when she burned herself, the first person Penny looked at wasn't me, it was Marshall, standing behind me. Then Marshall didn't eat or drink for an entire day, guarding her door. No matter how cold-hearted a woman is, she'd eventually start to fall for that kind of devotion. And once you start, there's no turning back. Penny's face remained calm. "He's always so gentle. I'm drawn to his personality, captivated by his kindness, infatuated with his maturity." "Carlton, you're too childish. You told me, didn't you? That if one of us ever fell in love with someone else, the other should let go. I can't stay your mistress forever. You said to give you time, but you couldn't do it. Carlton, you couldn't even tell your parents you wanted a divorce, let alone marry me. I can't live like this anymore." Penny's voice rose in emotion, but she paused, composed herself, and spoke softly. "I'm sorry." Carlton opened his mouth, his eyes flickering with countless emotions, but no sound came out in the end. I stumbled back a few steps. Marshall reached out to steady me, but I brushed him off. He lowered his gaze. "I'm sorry, miss. I had no choice. I love Miss Penny. Please, allow us to be together." As he spoke, he knelt before me. I blinked woodenly, my throat tightening, unable to make a sound. Penny grabbed Marshall and pulled him to his feet. Then, without hesitation, she walked out. As she passed me, Penny glanced my way, but quickly averted her gaze and left. In just one night, Carlton and I became the most pathetic people in the world. Penny moved out. For days, Carlton did nothing but drink. Drink and drink some more, drowning himself in alcohol. I drank with him too, singing loudly whenever the buzz hit. Drunk, Carlton slurred his words. Who would have thought, the two people who hated each other the most could get along so peacefully one day? Life's full of surprises. I really miss the old days. Swirling my wine glass, I chuckled coldly, my expression dazed. Do you think what we had before was healthy? A married couple and a mistress living under the same roof, getting along. Carlton looked at me, opened his mouth, but all he could say was, "I'm sorry." Days later, Penny reached out to meet me. That day, I dressed to the nines, wearing a fiery red dress. When I arrived, Penny was dressed simply in an elegant white chiffon dress. We looked at each other, and the tension shattered with our shared laughter. "Looks like we're still in sync," Penny said with a grin. I snorted lightly. "Don't think you can win me over. You stole my bodyguard, remember?" Penny raised her hands in mock surrender, laughing. "What can I say? He's exactly my type." I shot her a glare. "So you never liked me, huh?" And here I was, constantly on edge. Penny rolled her eyes. "Would it have been so bad if I liked you?" I turned away, silent for a long time before finally speaking. "When did you start liking Marshall?" "You hit it well." Penny raised an eyebrow, her gaze distant. "Liking him? Probably love at first sight. It only took one glance. Love doesn't need a reason, does it?" I rolled my eyes dramatically. "Weren't you the one who said love was unreliable? That men were unreliable?" Penny let out a playful sigh. "That was before I met my true love. And after this? What happens next? I'll probably leave the city. This is my goodbye to you, so you'd better take this chance to make me treat you to a meal. It's your last opportunity." Smiling, I said, "Don't worry, I'll make sure you go broke." Penny laughed heartily. We ate in silence for a long time. As we were about to leave, Penny suddenly brought up the time we met at the bar. "Do you remember when I asked how my acting was that time with the check?" I nodded. "Yeah, I remember." Penny smiled. "I think I got it wrong." "What?" "I think your acting was way better than mine." My heart pounded as I stared at her. Penny met my gaze. "Edith, did you think I didn't notice? Marshall and Carlton, don't they look rather alike?" Before leaving, Penny hesitated for a moment but finally spoke. How's Carlton? His disheveled image flashed through my mind. Not great. Penny nodded thoughtfully but didn't say anything more. She turned and left without looking back. When I got home, the living room was a mess, littered with broken objects. Carlton's roars echoed through the house, accompanied by the sound of shattering glass. He was losing it. Eyes bloodshot, he grabbed me by the collar as soon as he saw me. I stood quietly, letting him pull me forward. Edith. Why would you do this? You planned this, didn't you? You brought Penny into our lives and had your bodyguard seduce her. She loved me. You venomous woman. Don't think I didn't notice how much that bodyguard of yours, Marshall, looks like me. Penny fell for him because of me. Because he reminds her of me. Carlton's face contorted in anguish, tears streaming down his face. He looked utterly broken. I sneered and said, Carlton, are you dead? Is that why Penny wants to find someone who looks like you? And why do you think Marshall resembles you, not the other way around? Carlton froze for a moment. What are you talking about? I chuckled. It seems you're still in the dark. Penny met Marshall 2 years before she met you. She fell for him at first sight. You, on the other hand, just happened to resemble him enough for her to settle for you. Who would have thought fate would play such a joke? The man she truly likes just appeared like that. Did you know? That time at the bar, she drugged me just to create more opportunities to spend time with Marshall. She moved into the apartment for him too. From start to finish, you were just a stand-in, Carlton. How pathetic. Carlton staggered back, then erupted in a roar. You're lying. I looked at him calmly. Don't believe me? Go check for yourself. Everything's traceable. He clutched his head and broke down, smashing everything in sight, screaming, impossible. But when the truth finally stood before him, no amount of roaring or resistance could change it. I don't know how much time passed before he finally collapsed, drained of energy, slumping to the floor against the table behind him. The room fell silent. I gazed at Carlton's profile. Carlton, do you know when you resemble him the most? He paused and gave a bitter laugh. When I called you miss, maybe? I shook my head, my eyes fixed on his face. No, right now, you look the most like him. From this angle. Do you know? I've spent all these years searching for someone, wandering through countless noisy places. Yet no one has ever resembled him as closely as you do, not even Marshall, who only captures 50% of his essence. But you're almost an exact replica. Carlton furrowed his brow and slowly raised his head to look at me, his eyes filled with unease. What exactly are you saying? At that moment, there was something irresistibly magnetic about Carlton, drawing me toward him. I didn't even notice the shards of glass slicing into my feet, leaving a trail of blood. Carlton, do you think the world only has stories about princes and Cinderellas? There are also stories about princesses and dwarves. Years ago, I met someone I liked very, very much, Rain. He would gently call me princess. On rainy days, he'd scold me for playing in the water while tenderly drying my hair. He tolerated my tantrums and would fight back against anyone who bullied me, even if it left him battered and bruised. He was the biggest fool in the world. He had a bad temper, but when I was down, he would suppress it to comfort me, walking me home after school. I could never imagine a love more beautiful than ours. But my parents disapproved. They scolded me, listing all the reasons we weren't a good match. To them, money and status mattered above all else. After all, their own marriage was a business arrangement that turned into love only later. They said Rain's only fault was his background. I fought them with everything I had, but in the end, he was the one who let go first. We had a huge fight. In hindsight, I shouldn't have argued. I missed the chance to have a calm conversation with him, forever. Our ending came so abruptly. I closed my eyes, tears rolling down. Carlton, can you believe it? A flower pot fell from a balcony and hit him squarely, killing him instantly. It wasn't raining, it wasn't snowing, and it wasn't some fireworks festival. It was just an ordinary day with bright, sunny skies. And yet, he closed his eyes forever. A dull pain gripped my heart, like a giant hand squeezing it tight. I forced myself to open my eyes, letting my fingers linger on Carlton's face. Carlton, you should be grateful for this face of yours. As long as I see it, no matter what you do, bringing Penny home, speaking harshly to me, I can restrain myself from thinking about him. Even when people whispered behind my back, calling me shameless, I endured it all. How many times did I grit my teeth, pretending not to care, while watching Carlton embrace Penny? Watching him go crazy over another woman, with that pitiful expression and humble tone, felt like knives stabbing my chest over and over. The memory of someone deceased always gets polished into perfection. And now, he's become the most flawless man in my heart. Even Carlton, who resembles him so much, keeps stirring something deep inside me, carving out a space that only grows larger over time. Carlton recoiled as if seeing something terrifying, trembling as he backed away. My chest tightened. I grabbed him firmly, my eyes locked onto his face. If it weren't for this face, I wouldn't have investigated Penny, screaming internally every time I saw her by Carlton's side. The resemblance was too much to bear. Eventually, I discovered that years ago, Marshall had saved Penny's life. I deliberately arranged to meet Penny at a bar. I knew she'd drug my drink, yet I still drank it. Sure enough, she used my phone to call Marshall and then got closer to him. Her intentions were obvious. She was after Marshall. I set her up in the apartment, creating endless opportunities for her and Marshall to be together. Love quickly blossomed between them. Then, I orchestrated it so Carlton would catch them in bed, ensuring he'd give up on Penny completely. Only then could I keep Carlton by my side. In his despair, all it takes is one person to show up, and the wounded will inevitably lean on them. Carlton will let down his guard. He will accept me. I've already lost Rain. I can't lose Carlton too. All this time, I played the role of an ignorant, spoiled heiress, arrogant and foolish. Love is selfish. You use every means to achieve your goal, no matter how cruel or dark. But I don't care. Maybe my parents were right. Carlton is heaven's compensation for losing Rain. You can't spend your whole life dwelling on the dead. And Penny was right too, I am a remarkable actress. Everything I've done, Carlton, is because I love you. But every inch of Carlton's skin screamed the opposite, he didn't love me. He feared me. We're just pawns in our family's business arrangements. There's no such thing as love for people like us. Don't you get it? But since things have come to this, Carlton, please love me. Try to love me. It's fine. Time heals all wounds. I quietly pulled out a pair of toy handcuffs and clasped our wrists together. Carlton, we will be happy. I promise. That evening, Marshall came to find me. He stood silently by my side. I glanced at him. You didn't leave with Penny? Marshall pressed his lips together and shook his head. I sat down on a chair, and he peeled a banana for me without a word. I took a bite. Marshall, do you resent me for using you? Marshall kept his gaze lowered. It's an honor to serve you, Mississippi. That night, I was the one who asked Marshall to seduce Penny. But nothing happened between Penny and me that night. It was Penny who came to me first and asked me to play along. I frowned, my mind freezing. Penny approached you first? My chest suddenly felt tight, as if something was stuck there. Penny wasn't in love with Marshall? Or did I miss something in my plan? Marshall nodded slightly and handed me a card. She asked me to give this to you before she left. My heart sank the moment I saw the card, and even my fingers trembled. Miss, can I stay with you? Marshall's voice carried a trace of pleading. I forced myself to calm down and replied evenly. Marshall, you should leave. You know why I brought you into this. Marshall shook his head. I don't mind, Mississippi. Please, let me stay. His gaze was so sincere I couldn't bear to meet it. I looked away. After Rain's death, I drifted through life aimlessly for so long. It was the first time I realized that even from the top floor, you could feel trapped in the deepest prison. I wanted to drag everyone down. Drag them into hell with me. Make them share my darkness. Selfish. Twisted. But Marshall. From beginning to end, he stood in the light. He saw the darkest, most selfish sides of me, yet he never wavered. He was always there, unconditionally, on my side. For a fleeting moment, I felt my heart soften. Marshall, go, I said. I've already found someone who reminds me of him. I don't need you anymore. I didn't look at his face, but I could feel the crushing sadness radiating from him. Marshall was someone warm and kind. He deserved someone better to love. And someone better to love him back. We were never meant to be. When he left, his figure looked so desolate, yet he didn't glance back even once. He walked toward the light. Toward freedom. After he left, I stood there in silence for a long time. It felt like the strongest wall behind me had crumbled, leaving me to fight my battles alone. But then again, I was never worthy. I took out the card I had tucked away. It was from Penny. A tiny map, with a spot marked in glowing red ink. The country was the Netherlands. My heart raced as I silently repeated the name. Her voice seemed to drift from some faraway void, faint and almost dissipating. Over there, boys can hold hands with boys. Girls can wear wedding dresses or tuxedos. Both, if they want to. At the same time, I received a text from Penny. The photo showed two youthful faces, their expressions innocent and radiant with joy. I burst into tears. It was a photo of me and Rain. Accompanied by a single line. Edith, live well. We'll all find happiness. I burned the card. As the flames consumed the writing on its back, I didn't bother to read it. I stared at the card for a long, silent moment. To knowingly step into a trap, you're the first. And my supposedly flawless acting. To you, it was riddled with holes all along. That day, I locked myself in my room and cried for hours. I always had a habit of destroying and pushing away anyone who treated me well, just to watch them fall and suffer. Yet some people, even after witnessing the worst, most selfish, and despicable parts of me, they still stayed. They played along with my farce. But I was a bottomless abyss, destined to swallow every trace of love that dared to approach. I sat at the top floor of the company, overlooking the flowing streams of life below. Raising my gaze, I saw nothing but towering skyscrapers, their depths unreachable. People longed for these buildings, only to become trapped by them. I knew, one day, I'd pay for everything I'd done. But until that day came, I would live. Once, at least. From this prison at the top of the world. Bonus scene, Penny's perspective. When I started school, I was quickly surrounded by a group of people. They dumped out my bag, cut up my pencil case, and even pointed scissors at my hair and clothes. I stood there like a puppet, pushed and pulled around. Too drained to resist. My empty gaze drifted to the distance, where a black car slowly pulled up. The window rolled down, revealing a woman with curly hair and red lips. She glanced over with an impatient look. She turned her head and said something to someone inside the car. A tall, handsome bodyguard stepped out. With just a few words, he sent the bullies scattering. Adjusting his earpiece as if receiving a command, the bodyguard gently picked up my books, wrapped me in a coat, and took me to a mall and a restaurant. The woman never looked back. The car window rolled up, swallowing her face. I watched until the very last moment. And suddenly, I felt like I had a beam of eternal light. She was my light. Bonus scene, Edith. Rain and I had a fight. I didn't understand why, after everything I'd done, standing up to everyone, bearing all the pressure, he was still pulling away from me. He kept saying it was for my sake. But the days I spent with him were the happiest of my life. I wanted love. I wanted wealth. From a young age, I'd always gotten everything I wanted. I stared into the distance. Somewhere deep in my mind, a voice screamed relentlessly. Only the dead will stay with me forever. Watching the people slowly passing below the balcony, I reached out and brushed a half-suspended flower pot with my fingertips. It tipped over and fell. But I quickly realized that a cold, lifeless body could no longer speak. It felt like a blade twisting deep in my chest. I dragged myself through dark days like a walking corpse. It wasn't supposed to be this way. I had gotten what I wanted. So why was I still so empty? Until one day, I met Carlton. And my eyes could never leave his face again. Even though, time and again, he did the cruelest things, targeting me at every turn, even flirting with other women right in front of me. It made my teeth ache with rage. I wanted to lock him away. But I restrained myself. I told myself, I can't. I can't repeat what I did to Rain. I would live. I would love him properly. Putting away my sinister smile, I reached out sweetly in front of both our families and said, "My name is Edith." End of story.